All right, let's get into it. We're about to unpack one of the biggest scandals in modern Polish history. Seriously, it's a wild story of ambition, corruption, and a university that allegedly operated as a full-blown diploma factory, catching the country's elite in its web. I mean, just imagine this. You're a high-ranking politician, and you have to publicly admit this. That's Marcin Gołek, the deputy mayor of Poznań. His diploma, which was supposed to be his golden ticket, became so toxic that he literally had to shred it. This one statement, it just tells you everything you need to know about the scale of the crisis we're about to explore.
So, that's the big question, right? How does a coveted MBA, a key that's supposed to unlock corporate boardrooms, become so utterly worthless that its only value is as confetti? Well, the answer pulls back the curtain on a pretty sophisticated system of alleged corruption. Okay, so to really understand how this all went down, we have to look at the institution right at the heart of the storm, a private university called Collegium Humanum. The term you'll hear a lot here is degree mill. And look, we're not just talking about cutting a few corners academically. Investigators are alleging that Collegium Humanum was a diploma factory, plain and simple, and it was supposedly designed specifically to churn out credentials for ambitious officials who needed a fast track to high-powered jobs. And this timeline, it really lays it all out perfectly. It all starts in 2017, when a legal change creates this huge loophole. Suddenly, you could skip a really tough state exam for corporate board positions if you just had an MBA. This created a massive overnight demand. And then, what do you know, just 1 year later, Collegium Humanum pops up ready to fill that demand. It actually took until 2022 for journalists to start pulling at the threads and for the whole thing to start unraveling.
But here's the thing. This wasn't just about one shady university. The scale of this operation was, well, it was truly immense. Investigators started calling it an academic octopus. And honestly, that metaphor is perfect because this network wasn't just on one campus. Its tentacles allegedly reached into the highest levels of government, state-owned companies, and even other universities. It was everywhere. And when you look at the list of people caught up in this, wow, it's staggering. You've got the university's own rector, who's accused of leading an organized crime group, a former ambassador, mayors of major cities like Wrocław, even members of both the Polish and European parliaments. This was not some fringe operation. These were prominent, established figures. So far, prosecutors have brought charges against 82 people. 82! And the investigation is still going, so that number could easily go up. It just gives you a sense of the sheer breadth of this whole thing. So you might be wondering, what was the incentive? Why take the risk? Well, this number explains it perfectly. Prosecutors allege that just one official, the mayor of Wrocław, earned almost 500,000 zloty in extra salary from board seats he got with his diploma. The potential payday was enormous. And the cost of entry for this lucrative scheme? You won't believe it. A former ambassador allegedly paid just over 9,000 zloty. That's about $2,300 for his diploma. A tiny, tiny investment to unlock potentially hundreds of thousands in earnings. For a while there, that risk-reward calculation must have seemed incredibly tempting. But you know how these things go. Eventually, the house of cards has to start to fall. And it did. First, the Central Anti-Corruption Bureau launched these dramatic raids. Then came the arrests of the rector and other key figures, and, in a pretty desperate move, the university even tried to rebrand itself, hoping a new name would make the scandal go away. But, changing the name on the door doesn't really work when the whole house is rotten. And then came the final nail in the coffin. The government just slammed the door shut. An official ruling came down declaring that these specific MBA diplomas were now legally worthless for those board positions. The very loophole that created this whole diploma factory was now closed to its own graduates. So this brings us right back to where we started, back to that politician, Deputy Mayor Marcin Gołek in Poznań. With his diploma now officially useless, what did that mean for him and his career? Well, it created a huge debate. Gołek's defense was basically, hey, I'm a victim here. I was just an uninformed student who got duped. But his critics, they came back hard. They pointed out that his whole job is managing risk on massive city projects. So the question became, if he couldn't do his homework on his own education, how could anyone trust his judgment on multi-million zloty city contracts? And the fallout for the city was very real on multiple levels. First, you have the legal risk.
any board decision he was a part of could now be challenged in court. Then there are the ethical questions about this whole shortcut culture among officials. And finally, the political fallout. In a city like Poznań, which is known for its ethic of hard work, this kind of scandal just completely shatters public trust. But really, the story of one shredded diploma in one city points to a much, much bigger problem, a national crisis of trust in Poland's public institutions. You see, this was not some isolated incident. Poland's own Supreme Audit Office has been flagging systemic problems in how state-owned companies are run for a while now. The Collegium Humanum scandal didn't just appear out of nowhere. It exploited weaknesses that were already baked into the system. Professor Grzegorz Mazurek, who's the rector of a very reputable university, puts it perfectly. He calls it a problem for Poland, saying that a system was created that actually enabled people to take shortcuts to get into positions where they manage huge amounts of public money. Ultimately, this whole scandal forces us to ask a really fundamental question. When credentials and diplomas can just be bought, what truly qualifies someone to be a leader? If merit can be faked so easily, the real challenge isn't just about rooting out corruption, it's about completely redefining what leadership and integrity actually mean.